Yeah, so today in class we talked about reading situations, real world situations that have fractional pieces, and just um, creating algebraic expressions from those, whether we need to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So we just talked about real world situations where we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing fractions. So the biggest thing that you need to remember is, first and foremost, read the entire problem. So many times people miss these questions because they just start picking out the numbers in the problem and they don't read the whole thing first. So first thing you need to do is to read the entire problem. And then after you read it, you need to determine which math operation is being described. Okay, then next you're going to write an algebraic expression or an algebraic sentence from the problem. So that's just your math problem. And then last but not least, you're going to solve using the operations with fractions rules. So let's take a look at this first example here. It says Evan spends 1 1/3 hours on homework and then 3/4 of an hour on working on chores. How many total hours did Evan spend on these activities? So after we read it, the first thing we need to figure out is which math operation is happening. So I see the word total, and I know the word total means that we're going to be adding. So our algebraic expression is 1 1/3 plus 3/4. So we have 1 1/3 hours on homework plus 3/4 of hours on chores. Now from there, what we're going to have to do is create, these are mixed numbers, so we know we have to create them into improper fractions. So we have 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 gives us 4/3, plus 3/4 is already in fraction. Now we know that the rules for adding fractions with is that we need to create like denominators. So our least common multiple of 3 and 4 is 12. So we want fractions that have denominators of 12. I'm going to have to multiply my first fraction by 4, and that gives me 16/12. I'm going to have to multiply my second fraction by 3, and that gives me 9/12. And now that we have common denominators, we can just add our numerators. So 16 plus 9 gives us a numerator of 25. We keep our denominator of 12. Now, we have a mixed or an improper fraction here, and we need to change that into a mixed number. 12 goes into 25 2 times with 1/12 left over. I can't simplify 1/12, so our final answer is 2 1/12. Evan spends 2 1/12 hours on both activities. Okay. All right, number 2. Elise bought 8.5 yards of material. She used 3 3/4 yards for pants and 2 2/3 yards for a jacket. How many yards did she have left? So in this problem, we've got 2 steps. We first have to we see the word and, so that means I'm going to have to add the part of the fabric that she used. So I'm going to have to add 3 3/4, I'm going to have to add 2 2/3, and I see the word left, so I know that I'm going to, whatever I get from that, I'm going to have to subtract it from 8.5 yards. Okay, so essentially, we started with 8.5 yards. We're going to subtract out 3 3/4 plus 2 2/3, but I'm going to do this first to figure out how much that she used before I subtract it out. So, like I said, we're going to do this piece first, and that's why I put it in the parentheses in my algebraic expression to say, do this first, okay? And so I'm going to convert those to my improper fractions. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus the 3 I carried is 15/4, okay? Then I have 3 times 2 is 6, plus the 2 on the top is 8, so I have 8/3. Okay, so now we need to create equivalent fractions that have, to add those, we need like denominators. And the least common denominator between 4 and 3 is 12. So my first fraction, we're going to multiply by 3. So I get 45/4, or sorry, 45/12, plus my second fraction, I'm going to multiply by 4 to get a denominator of 12. So that gives me 32/12. Now we have common denominators, so I can just add their numerators. So 45 plus 32 gives me 77, and we keep our denominator of 12. Okay, we have our improper fraction here, it's 77/12, and we're going to turn that into our mixed number. 12 goes into 77 6 whole times, with 5/12 remaining. Okay, so when I added these two together, 3 3/4 plus 2 2/3, I got 6 5/12. So now I have to take 8.5 and I have to subtract 6 5/12. So that's my next problem. Okay. So we have 8.5 minus 6 and 5/12. I'm not sure why my 5/12 went way over here. But anyways, we have to turn these into our improper fractions. So I have 8.5. 2 times 8 is 16, plus the 1 we carried is 17/2 minus 12 times 6 plus 5 would give me 77/12. Okay. Now, since I'm subtracting, I still need common denominators, and our least common denominator between 2 and 12 is 12. So this one's going to stay the same. We're still going to keep 77/12, and I'm going to multiply this one by 6. So I have, it becomes 102 over 12 minus 77/12. Now we can just subtract because we have common denominators. So 102 minus 77 gives me 25/12. We're going to turn this into our mixed number because it's an improper fraction. So 12 goes into 25 2 whole times with 1/12 remaining. I can't simplify my 1/12, so my final answer is 2 1/12. So Elise has 2 1/12 yards of material remaining.